The ninth track on Axis Bold as Love is a beautiful ballad called Castles Made of Sand. And this is another example of Jimi Hendrix's incredible creative abilities within the style of R&B rhythm guitar, like you heard on Little Wing and Wait Until Tomorrow. But Castles really has its own thing. Jimi plays some beautiful chord voicings and small voicings and chord melodies. Here's the intro. Alright, Castles features some of the same chord voicings that we saw in use on Little Wing, specifically this G sus2 chord, or G add 9, you could also call it, with that high second or ninth on the high E string. Jimi begins with F, sus2, and slides up to G. Slides up to B flat, up to C, back to B flat, back to G, back to F, back to G, and then pulls his pinky off. Then you've got, so you got this G major pentatonic lick, but then right here, this turns into sort of like almost G major 7. Into a C chord. And this is a typical way to embellish a C chord using notes from C major pentatonic. Then this next chord, very unusual chord, and Jimi also uses this chord on Have You Ever Been to Electric Ladyland, which is another incredible R&B style rhythm guitar part. Back to G. One more time. Down to F, which is the beginning of the first verse. All right, here's the Castles Made of Sand verse section. All right, let's go over this verse section of Castles Made of Sand. Jimi begins with an F sus2 chord in first position. So you got the root note fretted with the thumb, first fret of the sixth string. A string is muted. Third fret of the D, open G, and index finger first fret of the B. And then when he moves up to A minor, he's using the same chord form type, but this is a minor shape now, so you've got thumb, ring, index, index, index. And then he adds little melodies with his pinky, as he's been doing in a lot of the other songs. One more time. Then to E minor 7. And then, and that little riff outlines the chord changes. So on F he plays, which is sliding up to the major third of F, A, and then he plays a C and an F note, fifth root. And then for the C chord, basically does the same thing transposed to C, which is the major third of C, E, and then the fifth and root on top there. So instead of playing, then he goes, typical country-esque kind of fill that Jimmy liked to use. I'm hammering on the G string while I have the 3rd fret of the B string fretted. Back to F. So at the end there. And then for A minor, now he stays in 1st position. And this is a nice little lick that sets up the change to the E minor chord. You have notes on the G string played in conjunction with the open high E string. Here's the Castles Made of Sand chorus with a 2-bar pickup. Let's go over the chorus section of Castles Made of Sand. We have a 2-bar pickup. Just it's the last 2 bars of the verse on G. Because the actual beginning of the chorus lick comes in the last bar of the verse on beat 4. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that B note is the downbeat. So we start with slide up to B and index finger D note, 5th fret of the A string. There's our C chord. This time what's different from the intro is Jimmy goes. So he repeatedly goes back and forth from this F note to the G note, which is like C sus, and then he plays that unusual chord. It's like a B flat 6 chord. Or you could even think of it as C sus 4 with a B flat bass. Back to the main figure. All right, here's the Castles Made of Sand 2nd chorus and guitar solo, the rhythm guitar part. For the Castles Made of Sand guitar solo, Jimmy utilized a technique that he also did on the song Are You Experienced, the title track of his first record, and he played a backwards guitar solo. And the way he would do that in those days is they would take the master tape and flip it over on the tape machine. So when they played it, you would hear all of the tracks, the drums and the bass and rhythm guitar, backwards, and then he would record a guitar solo in a normal fashion. But then when they flip the tape over again, now all the tracks play forward, but the solo sounds backwards. And that's what he did on this song. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to emulate that backwards solo by playing it normally, which is a good thing to do if you're performing the song and you want to try to play the same melodies that you hear that are from his backwards guitar. Here we go. All right, recreating a backwards guitar solo, playing normally, is an odd thing to do, and it's difficult. It has to do with, really, with playing sort of out of time and sort of speeding up and slowing down, because that is the feeling you get when you listen to that backwards solo. So what I did here is I start by recreating the envelope of a note. Like when you normally pick a note, it slowly dies. So what happens when that's backwards is the opposite happens. It goes from silence and envelopes in. So I started that way by picking the note, bringing in the volume control, and then slide 3rd fret, 7th fret, 5th fret back to 3rd. Then just a slide up and down. So one more time, you got. All right, so after the, there's just a slide up and down, and then so sliding up to the 12th fret on the D and G string, sliding back down, and then back up. So after we play this, and all the time I'm trying to emulate that kind of weird feeling that you get from backwards guitar. Just kind of snaking around, and then the next lick. One more time. A little slower. Let me slide back up. All right, then you slide it from the 3rd fret, 12th fret, do a bend and release on the 14th fret, and then a quick hammer pull on the B string, 12 to 15. So we got. So after that hammer pull on the B string, got these repeated bends at the 15th fret. Now you could go, because when you do the pre-bend and release and bend again, it emulates the picking and bending up, because we're hearing the opposite. So one more time. In this modern day and age, they make devices now, guitar effects, that will take what you play and sample it and spit it back at you backwards. One such device is this Boss RC50 that I have right here. So I can play and hold the button down, and it captures what I play, let go of the button, and hit the button again, and it'll spit back backwards what I played. So if I play this, it'll play this backwards. All right, now this next phrase is kind of how the guitar solo begins and spills into the preceding bar, because I'm playing it backwards. So if I play this, you get that. Sounds exactly like the record. All right, now this next phrase is going to emulate the end of the solo going through toward the beginning of the solo. So actually, this would be what Jimmy first played when he was playing to the backwards track. And then you'll hear it backwards, which is how it sounds on the record. That's not confusing, right? So here's the phrase. And here it is backwards. All right, here's the Castles Made of Sand outro. All right, the outro picks up with the end of that third verse. And then the next hit on the G chord is what would have been the beginning of the chorus, or a normal chorus. And it is a chorus here, except it's played in free time. So Jimmy hits the chord, it says, and it didn't really have to stop, and then slowly plays. And then there's a little variation here. Instead of playing that like he did before. And then the C chord, and here he goes. So that's a different figure completely. But then goes right to that C sus2 with a B flat bass chord. So one more time. And then back to the normal, the main figure. Slowing down. And then the last chord hit comes in. And when he hits that chord, he also hits the toggle switch and switches it to the bridge pickup. Or you can do it in one move. So somewhere up here is where the track actually fades out. So he's going.